you were given a choice between living in a cold, harsh reality full of boring facts, or living in a beautiful imagination full of color, hope, and stories that make you feel special. What would you choose? Before you answer, let me ask you another question. Are you sure that the reality you're living in is really real? Or is it just an illusion, woven for you by the words of others, the images in advertisements, and the stories in movies? If you want to be strategic in your life, you must learn how to tap into the fantasies and illusions that people live in. Our world is filled with appearances and stories that we create ourselves, and when you know how to influence these fantasies, you can control the reality that others experience. What? Because people don't live their reality as it is. They're always surrounded by their fantasies and dreams. If you seek to control them, you must cultivate this imagination, not deal with a static reality. Step 1. Understand people's minds. What do they think? What excites them? Are they drawn to romantic stories or exotic appearances? When you understand these perceptions, you can strategically channel them to your advantage. Step 2. Build stories and visualizations. Don't limit yourself to concrete facts. Focus on building an exciting image in their minds. The more mysterious and enchanting this image is, the more you'll influence them. Step 3. Mystery is your power. People are drawn to the mysterious. The more you allow imagination, the more you'll be able to influence others. Do you think this rule is just a game? Follow along in the video, because things will enter into a complex spiral more complicated than you can imagine, and you'll discover how you can use this tactic in your daily life in ways you never imagined. Rule 32. Play on people's imagination, not their reality. This is one of the most profound rules in the 48 Laws of Power that attracted me, in my opinion. To understand matters more deeply, it is necessary to mention one of history's most fascinating figures, a man who used the magic of words and imagination to transform reality in astonishing ways. Giacomo Casanova. This man wasn't of noble birth, nor did he possess money or power, but he possessed a far more powerful weapon. From a young age, Casanova was fascinated by stories and legends, and he knew that people don't like reality as much as they like fantasy. As a teenager, he began to realize that he could reshape his image in the eyes of others, not through truth, but through what he wanted them to believe about him. One night, while walking through the dark streets of Venice, he entered a small cafe where merchants, artists, and noblemen gathered. He wore only his simple clothes, but he sat confidently and began talking about his travels to France and Spain, even though he had never left Venice. He described how he met important figures and participated in secret political conspiracies. Those present didn't know the truth, but they were captivated by the magic of his conversation. He painted a picture in their minds of a mysterious, cultured, and cosmopolitan man, even though every word he said was fabricated. But he wasn't lying for the sake of lying. He was constructing a new reality far more exciting than his real life could offer. One night, Casanova met a wealthy businessman looking for someone to help him with a complex financial project. Casanova understood nothing about finance, but he didn't hesitate. He looked the man in the eye and said, "I've worked with bankers in Paris, and I know how they turn poverty into wealth in the blink of an eye." This wasn't true, but he said it with such confidence that the man believed him. Within days, Casanova had become part of the elite world, not because he was a financial expert, but because he made them want to believe he was one. He understood their weakness. Everyone is looking for a hero, someone with the knowledge they lacked, and Casanova was adept at playing that role. But the real adventure began when he realized he could control people's emotions through illusion, not just information. This is when he began to use his skills in more complex ways. Casanova employed what we might call the art of manipulating imagination. This is simply the ability to create an exciting and attractive image in the minds of others, not through a fixed fact, but through perceptions and illusions that he wanted them to believe. This ability to construct a parallel reality that makes them live in a world of your own imagination is the skill that made Casanova one of the most influential figures in history. In Casanova's time, stories and tales were the primary means of influence. Today, we have multiple means of building our personal images, such as the internet and social media. You can use imagination to build an attractive personality that showcases your strengths and conceals your weaknesses. Whether you're marketing a product or building a personal brand, you should only show what supports your goal. Building this image requires a balance between realism and creativity, and presenting an engaging story that will engage others. One cold night in Paris, Casanova was sitting in one of the ornate halls where a sophisticated party was being held for the city's aristocracy. The dim lights created an air of mystery, and the music played dreamy melodies. As he walked among the guests, his eyes fell upon a woman with a captivating presence, sitting next to her elderly husband, her face showing a deep boredom. This woman was Madame de Pompadour, one of the most influential women at the French court. Although she lived in a world of immense wealth, her eyes held a longing for an adventure she had never experienced. Casanova, who quickly read this, decided to enter her world in an unexpected way. He approached her just as her husband had momentarily stepped back, leaned forward slightly, and whispered, "Madame, this party seems to be full of gold, but it lacks true magic." She looked at him in surprise, but she couldn't hide her slight smile. Casanova wasn't the type to show immediate admiration. He preferred to make his victim feel like she had chosen him, not the other way around. So, he didn't compliment her or offer conventional flirting. Instead, he began by telling her a story about his recent adventure in Spain, where he met a noblewoman who lived in a palace shrouded in secret. He spoke of betrayals, forbidden love, and secret meetings under the moonlight. Madame de Pompadour listened intently, as if immersed in another world. His story wasn't just meant to dazzle her, but to make her imagine herself as the heroine, a woman escaping social constraints into a wild love story. As the days passed, he exchanged coded messages with her, wrote her poems full of mysterious connotations, and suddenly disappeared for a few days, leaving her constantly wondering about him. He created a state of anticipation within her, making her long for him without even realizing it. One moonlit night after a lavish party, Casanova found himself with her on the balcony of the palace, where she was silently gazing out at the city. He stood beside her and said, "Sometimes, the most beautiful moments are the ones we least expect. Like this one, isn't it?" She turned to him with hesitant eyes, then said in a low voice, "You're dangerous, Mr. Casanova." He smiled confidently and said, But isn't danger what makes life more exciting? At that moment, it wasn't just his charm or his intelligence, but his ability to create an alternate reality in her mind, one far more exciting than the one she was experiencing in reality. And so, she became one of his victims, not because she wanted to, but because she wanted to believe the story he had concocted for her. The art of creating illusions, the ability to construct a parallel reality in the minds of others, not through facts or reality, but through stories and images that stimulate their imaginations. Through an adventure story filled with excitement and mystery, Casanova succeeded in transporting Madame de Pompadour from her reality to a new world filled with the fantasies and visions he created for her. Casanova was a master at understanding people's emotions and how to manipulate them to his advantage. In our time, there is a growing need to understand emotions, as emotions drive people's decisions, whether in love, purchasing products, or supporting causes. To be able to influence others, you must learn how to stir their emotions in a genuine and profound way. You can harness the power of storytelling to inspire others or ignite passion. Having successfully manipulated the emotions of women and noblemen, Casanova decides to try a new skill: controlling faith. One cold evening, Casanova invited the villagers to a remote location outside the village walls to perform a special ritual. He claimed to be able to perform healing rituals that would bring peace of mind and spiritual healing to anyone suffering from pain or mental illness. He told people stories of miraculous healings that had occurred on his previous journeys, and how he had encountered ancient spiritualists who had helped him gain the ability to control spirits. At first, the ritual consisted of simple hand gestures accompanied by the recitation of words in ancient Latin, which seemed mysterious and complex to the people. He would complete the ritual by playing soothing music on an ancient musical instrument he carried. He would distribute sacred flowers among the people, speaking of the strange miracles that occurred when these flowers were intertwined with the spiritual rituals. He also made sure to present himself as a messenger from heaven, assuring them that God had chosen him to bring them good news, and that he possessed the ability to predict the future and cure illnesses. To bolster his credibility, he began healing some village patients using unscientific methods that influenced the minds of people suffering from minor psychological or physical ailments. But what made his deception even more complex was that he linked his spiritual rituals to simple social indicators. He claimed that the person who followed him would have a better life or avoid disasters destined for them in the future, which caused people to flock to receive his blessings. Do you think the era of Casanova is over? Do you think the tricks he used centuries ago are over and no longer have a place in our modern world? If so, let me tell you something. The human mind doesn't change much over time. What Casanova did and what his predecessors did in past eras is still used by leaders, politicians, marketers, and even social media influencers to achieve their goals. The method differs, but the fundamentals are the same. In today's world, we have more tools than ever to communicate and influence others. Social media, videos, articles, all allow us to manipulate the image we present of ourselves. Have you ever seen an online persona that seems perfect in every way? You'll notice that these personas are carefully constructed. They follow the same steps as Casanova, presenting an exciting story about their lives that everyone wants to follow. Every photo, every tweet, every post is not just a display of an ordinary life. It is a careful selection to create a fantasy that aligns with the image they want their audience to see. An example of this: Instagram influencers who create perfect images by editing photos and capturing exciting moments. It doesn't matter if those photos are completely accurate. What matters is that followers believe the story they tell. Take, for example, people who sell themselves as consultants or coaches. They often begin their conversations with a story about their lives, which includes significant challenges they've faced and how they overcame them. Sometimes the stories are exaggerated, but they impress people and make them feel like this person has the expertise they need. Ultimately, the golden rule is that fiction enhances reality. While some may think Casanova's actions were merely deception, he was aware that the core values he was manipulating, such as emotion, faith, and imagination, remain the same today. If you want to be an influencer in the modern age, whether in business, the media, or even in your personal life, you must learn how to build your own world and tap into the human mind, which has hardly changed since the days of Casanova. Just remember, the human mind is fascinated by stories, fascinated by adventure, and fascinated by illusions. Use this to your advantage, and you'll find that many doors can open for you.